I've been in the dark.
Yeah.
It ain't no fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to reside there.
Yeah.
I fell into depression. I had manic panic attacks. I just was not well mentally. We're not supposed to live in pain.
Never.
We are not supposed to live in pain.
And it's like, no, you only have access to me if I allow you to. So calling me does not grant you access or entitlement. It's when I answer.
I never step outside of being a woman. God gave us a womb because we are meant to carry, not necessarily the weight of the world, but to carry nonetheless.
I have to ask this. There was a lot of backlash. How did that affect your dreams?
I sleep with my eyes open. I know. I see more when I'm asleep than when I'm awake. I dream in color. You can do the supernatural in your dream. There are things that happen in our dreams to keep us sane when we're awake.
Think about what you haven't learned yet and why you stuck at the life you are. And you don't pass a kid that keeps flunking just because he's tired of flunking.
Yeah.
Like, no, get the lesson.
Is this y'all's plan to get black businesses out of retail stores? And if that's the plan, that is what they want. God showed me what was coming. I hope someone sees you when you're not well.
But I see so many people crediting the devil for success.
Everybody don't want to do that work. People are comfortable in their dark space. If I can't show up the way I want you to feel, I'm not going to show up.
That's beautiful. Peace, family. It's 19 Keys. Thank you for watching High Level Conversations. We want to continue to be the best show in the world, so we need your support for that. So if you enjoyed this conversation, if you enjoy the value of this channel and the rest of these high-level conversations, please help spread the word. If you haven't already, please leave a 5-star review. And the best reviews, we will screenshot and post on our high-level conversation page, and you will win one of many gifts that we have. We also need you to like and we need you to comment so we can be at the top of the algorithm. We're building out the platform that's going to take the culture forward. And every conversation is a piece of the puzzle so that we can elevate the consciousness of the world. Whether you're a small business or a big business, we have different packages that you can come in and help sponsor episodes so we can take things to the highest level. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but if this is an exciting offer for you, then go to 19keys.com/HLC so that you can join the high level team. I appreciate you for being here and I appreciate you for watching this episode. Continue to stay high level. Peace, family. It's 19 Keys. Welcome to another high level conversation. Today we exist in a world that can be devoid of light, right? Devoid of color. It can even may seem bleak or dark. And in those times we need inspiration, insight, guidance. We need warmth, right? Oftentimes we don't always have somebody to guide us out of darkness. Those spaces feels tight, right? It feels like nobody knows what you're going through. And most likely it couldn't be farther from the truth. It's just that we're not having conversations and communicating those thoughts and those feelings. I believe that the world is so disconnected from each other, right? That we're seeking stimulation in everything but actual intimacy and connection, right? We overeat, we overindulge, we overwatch, overscroll. And if we had those things inside of us that made us feel true joy, right? That work within those spaces of void, then we wouldn't need any of those things. But that's not yet the world that we have. So when I find people that exist, that I believe are that warmth, right? When I think about this sister, like the color orange comes to mind, right? Similar to like the sun or sunset. I've never seen anybody mad when a sunset happened or a sunrise, because that's when you are in alignment and in tune with the cosmos, right? We are still a people that disconnected from the best ways of eating properly for our mood, for our joy. How do you eat for success? How do you live for success, right? As somebody that I've studied her journey, and I don't think she's ever been ordinary, but she comes from ordinary places, right? But always believed in the extraordinary. And I think there's so many people that believe in their extraordinary but don't know how to get there, right? And we typically arrive there as long as we never stop believing in ourselves. The moment we stop believing, then we stop processing, right? We kill our own journey before we arrive. Not understanding the lessons you were supposed to learn before you got there. because it's not just important about arriving to a destination. You have to be in a place to where you can maintain space there and be deserving of it. So in this world that we're living in today of darkness, this conversation will be a light for many. I call my mother and my sisters who love her, and I ask them, why do you love her? And they all had different reasons. They say her authenticity, her joy, her genuineness, her journey, her marriage, her life. She shows us what's possible, right? And my sister, who is very deeply spiritual, said that I met her once before, and she had some of the most authentic, resonating energy of anybody that I ever met in my life. Wow. Right? And I thought that was important to say because she has a large women's audience that look to her. And today I want to speak to that energy that I think the feminine in this world may be missing some of that guidance and trying to get to this space that they see in her, that they receive from her every single day as she shows up. And I know it's not easy to show up warm in a cold world. Today I'm talking about Tabitha Brown, the light of the culture. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you to your family.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I actually want to, maybe about 30 minutes, I'm going to call my sister and see if she has a question for you.
I would love that.
So, Miss Tabitha, how did we get here?
You invited me. Oh.
You expressed something. You were speaking at a graduation, and you was expressing how your daughter got you on TikTok, mm-hmm. and how dreams don't always look like the way you thought they would.
Right.
We're living in a world where most people couldn't have predicted where we would be in 2025, and definitely don't know where we'll be beyond this, mm-hmm. because the future feels like it's coming at us instead of we're going towards it. Yeah. There's so many things every single day. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, what is my future, mm-hmm. right? How do I create a dream when there's so many things being invented and so many things being destroyed, right? How does a person go into that space to where they can utilize their imagination to dream again when they don't know what the world will be?
Mm. I think that if you focus too much on what's to come, it takes you out of the present, right? And so then you don't know how to dream, right? Because you can't dream of things that you have no idea about, mm-hmm. right? But you can dream about what your hope is in the present. And what you were referring to is what I was talking about. As a kid, I always dreamed of acting and performing and, entertaining. And so that looked like television. It looked like movies. It looked like plays. There was nothing called the internet. Mm-hmm. It could have never looked like that to me. But then here we are in the future of my childhood, living in it, mm-hmm. and the internet plays a role in how I became successful. Mm. I couldn't have imagined that, but I didn't spend time trying to figure out, what exactly would it look like? Where will it play? What will it be? I didn't, my mind, I guess God says it's more than what we can imagine. And so I kind of live in that moment and being present in how I feel and what lives inside of me, the desires that I have. I think if we just focus on the desire, the passion, the dream that he deposited, then everything else will just, happen naturally.
Yeah. I think when you said gifts about when you're younger and, you want to be an actor, you want to be somebody on TV because it's what you see. Mm-hmm. And then I think about what's deeper in that you're really trying to express, right? Yep. You want your gifts to be seen. You mm-hmm. want people to see your personality, what you can do, mm-hmm. right? And so when we were younger, that was the way we seen it show up, mm-hmm. right? And we didn't realize there was going to be many different ways for it to show up, right? Yeah. Whether it was on social media, whether we can stream or TikTok, YouTube. Now we have so many different mediums for our gift to express itself. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing today. Because people realize it never had to be that way. I just wanted that feeling that comes from being seen for my talents, my gifts, my skills. Yeah. Right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about the world that we're living in. And it requires so much imagination mm-hmm. because you have to see it before you believe it. Right? And a lot of times people don't believe it until they see it. Mm-hmm. Right? But as a visionary, everything is colored in my mind first. And I know you have to be like that.
Yeah.
You have to see everything first. I imagine every conversation. That's what made me a good speaker. Before I go on stage, I imagine not just what I'm going to say, but how people are going to feel. I imagine my movements, right? When I do my pauses, when I have voice deflections and tonality, right? That imagination allows me to enter that dimension before I ever go there physically. And it allowed me to replay and go over everything, right?
Yeah.
As somebody who is a visionary, what do you now imagine going forward in your life?
Well, there's a lot of things I still want to do, right? I still feel like I'm just getting started. And so God took me on a different journey than what I had imagined, right? So I haven't really got into the acting the way I want to, which is still my childhood dream, and I still want to do it and will do it. And I also, I love people. I'm very passionate about people. And so I would love to do a talk show one day. And then I would really love to do like global work, discovering how other people live. And
Like traveling?
Yeah, traveling, but also sharing that with everyday people that I know, right, and that are here, just to show the differences. Also with animals. I love animals. And I think there's such a disconnect with our food and animals. And so I would love to do more work in that way to show people like, let's look at the disconnect and let's bring it together a little bit. So I think it's more passion work moving forward. I think, but also entertaining for me, what I realized about why I loved performing so much. It wasn't so much about the performance. It was so much, now as an adult, I realized years ago, I love acting because of how I can make people feel. I love to make people laugh. Sometimes people need to cry. Sometimes they need to smile. Sometimes they need to think. All of that is performance driven. So if I can perform a certain way that will make you feel an emotion that you may need, that you've kind of checked out on, I feel like I've done something great in the world. So as long as I still do all those things, I think I'm on the right track. Yeah.
You very outspoken about like your gifts in the sense of being a seer, right? Throughout time, that has shown up in many different forms, right? The prophetess, the Delphi, right? It shows. I talked to a good sister named Vicky Dillard, and she talked about the Sibyls, or these women that could foretell and that will work for kings oftentimes, or work for themselves to see into the future, to storytell things to come. I think there's always been, in late days, there's been a lot of taboo around tapping into that. Even with the movie Sinners, when they seen people practicing hoodoo, a lot of us have been disconnected from that heritage. And we say ancestors, and we're really talking about our grandmothers and great-grandmothers. Like, it's not that far back. People think ancestors, they think they're going thousands of years. You're going a generation or two. And because we are a people that have oral history, when it's not shared orally, then we forget. Right? And so that ancestral memory is not passed down. And so you're developing and things are happening to you and you don't know why. It's kind of like going through maturity, right? And nobody's telling you, what is this thing going on with my body? I think that same thing's happening with our spirit and our soul and our gifts.
Yeah.
Why did you feel it was imperative to start sharing it out loud, right? That this is who I am, this is what I have. Right? And it's not something dark and it's not something witchy. This is something real that I know other women and men possess, but just don't speak about.
Really, it was obedience, right? I started sharing, I think the first time I may have shared was maybe 2019 or so. But then in my first book I wrote in 2020, and I wanted to start that book off with, this is who I am. I didn't want to hide it, right? Because I want people to know this is who I am, and I want to give you a choice. You either going to keep rocking with me, or you can be like, no, I don't want to. And either way, it's your business, right? And I truly believe it's a gift that God gave me. I've had it my entire life, and I've told people so many times, I can't control it. It just appears. I have dreamt of things since I was a little girl that scared me as a child. And my mother was gifted. And so when you are a child with these things happening, it's kind of hard to be normal or feel normal, right? Because other kids don't know what you're talking about, right? And so, and then the old folks be like, you keep that to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my mama, who was my, my best friend, who also could help guide me, left this world early. And so before she passed, she said, you got to find somebody who can help you with it. And I thought that I found someone, and he was a pastor who I knew very well, and he was helping me. But when the gift started to show me things about himself, his life, he pulled away from me. And so I went through this stage of praying it away. Like, I don't want it no more. It's too heavy to carry. And it never went away, but I felt like it was quieter. Like there was a couple of years where it didn't feel as strong. And then I realized in those years, it felt lonely. Inside, something felt like it was missing. And so when I got to this place of what I call my freedom walk and my second chance at life in the last 8 years, my promise was, God, I will be who you created me to be. And if I'm going to be that, I have to show up fully as myself, and I can't hide, and I have to be honest. So I started sharing, and that's the truth.
I believe I've been that way my whole life as well, right? The other day, I seen a video of a young lady, and she was speaking to trees, right?
Me too.
And you see where she was calling the leaves to her. And so whatever called me to go try it.
Me too.
I said, let me go check this out. So I went outside, and on my porch, there's this branch that protrudes down towards my door. So almost like it's reaching out to me.
Yep.
And so as soon as I walk out to the steps, I try it. And it comes directly to me. I said, wait a minute. Yeah. Anybody see that? So I moved my hand down and see, and it did it just as much. And it's communing with nature. And I remember when I was a child, I did that. When I was a child, I think I may be around 6, 7 years old. And it was actually the first time I got insight about my future, my destiny. And it was very clear, right? And I just remember being told in a very clear voice that I was destined to change the world in some capacity. And that became part of my identity very early on. I didn't always tell people, but it was just something I believed.
Yeah.
Even growing up in the streets, sometimes we have dangerous situations, but I was never worried because I knew I hadn't fulfilled my destiny yet. Like, we literally be getting shot at, and I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna die because it's not my time yet.
Yeah.
And that actually gave me comfort in the craziest times.
Yeah.
Because I knew that God wasn't done working with me.
I love
Right.
it.
And there was a time where it did kind of disappear because you go into realistic thinking about life. I got to get a job. I got to do this. Man, you can't be that special if you broke. You know what I'm saying? So
been there, done it. Yeah.
you start going into that mode. And so seeing that video, it reminded me of my childhood. And it was funny because the landscapers had came through the house, and I was going outside to show somebody and to record the video, and they had cut the branch. And I felt just like that, like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, I was like, whoa, I really felt like I just lost somebody. And then I felt for the tree itself, you know what I mean, on how we just cut nature, right? And so I think that one thing that we have gotten away from is that harmony, right? We live out of harmony with nature now. And we live in this mechanized time, right? And in order for a person to get back into flow, they have to essentially wake up with the sun, go to sleep with the sun, live as plants do. Right? The plants don't need innovation. Animals don't need innovation. They have regeneration because they live in harmony with the cycles of the universe, right? The cycles of the planet, the seasons, the patterns, the things all around us. And when we stop living in harmony with those things, we become sick, or we are affected by the cosmos and don't know why, right? So it's like a lot of people look at astrology. I more so look at astronomy. Right, because I can tell you that we're going through a solar cycle, and during solar cycles where the sun emits hot peak energy of electromagnetic energy, it affects the body. It affects your heart, right? It affects brain frequency. It affects your sleep. But the average person doesn't know this, so they may have an irritable mood and not getting sleep and don't know why, because they didn't know during these times you should have fasted or practiced, breath work. So ancient people always did that. Right? Ancient women can tell us what time it was and when we should do things and not do things. Don't make decisions during this time. right? Because you may make the wrong decisions. You may be more angry because your mood will be affected. And maybe they couldn't break down the science, but they had the intuition of understanding, right? And so I think we've lost being guided by divine feminine energy, right? And we can see what men do in power when they're not in alignment as well, right? So getting deeper into that conversation about gifts, right? How does one know that they are gifted, right? Or perhaps even find a gift again when it was lost?
I think we all know, right, that we have a gift. Sometimes it scares us, and so we don't acknowledge the gift. We all have that intuition, that gut. I always call that gut feeling in your stomach. The gut is the gift under the tummy. That's what I call it.
Yeah, gift
right?
under the tummy.
We all have that, and it's as simple as sometimes when you walk into a room, something don't feel right.
Right.
Or when you meet a person, something don't feel all the way right. Those are gifts. Sometimes we ignore it and we get burned. You know, sometimes we keep on going into the room and it ain't our room.
Yeah.
I think that if we lean into those moments more instead of ignoring them, then we lean into our gift. I think when we are too distracted, that's when we miss the opportunity to recognize our gift. I feel like for me, I had to unfortunately go through a very dark season in my life for my gift to get stronger, right? I was very much so quiet, not going out, not socializing, just home with my family, but not distracted. I was so in my body because I was feeling everything, but I was not well. And I think I was not well because I was suffocating my truth. And so once I started taking those layers off, the gift started to be stronger and stronger. But I've always known I was gifted. But I think as children, we always know. It's as we get older, we're influenced by our parents or whomever is guiding us. And then the world, right? We start to believe what they tell us versus what we feel. Sometimes we got to get back to, what do I feel? What do I hear? What do I see? Not what the world tells me I hear or see or how I should feel. Just what is in my body? What is in my soul? How does my spirit speak to me? These are the ways that we recognize our gifts. And then they just show up.
I think that's so powerful because we live in a day and age where what we see is mostly on a phone, right?
Yeah.
We stare into the eyes of a camera more than we do into another human soul, right? We stare at the phone more than we do at the stars now, right? And all we're doing is interacting with other people's thoughts, whether they're true or not. Now we got AI everywhere, so
Right.
we don't know what's real and what's not real.
You're right about that.
Right? There's a lot of artificial scholarship, you know what I mean? Because people can just read scripts, memorize it, and then go speak something, and then we don't know if ChatGPT was right, right? But it sounded good.
Yeah.
And so we're in this time where things sound really good, but they mean really nothing, right? And we've lost the ways of wisdom, right? And the ways of wisdom is always guided through intuition, right? It doesn't always need information, right? We think we need more information, more information. It's like, why about you trust yourself?
Yeah.
Why don't you think you have enough, which is thinking you aren't enough? And that's why I tell people, don't try to find your purpose. Remind yourself, right? And that's where we get lost when we are disconnected from our ancestors. And let's just say our grandmothers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers and grandmothers. Because I see when we say ancestors, it's so ambiguous that we think we just talking about this Black Panther line of, you know what I'm saying, of spirits and souls, but this your actual DNA.
Yeah.
Like, this is the information in your DNA. I have certain lessons in me that I would want my son to know. And if I don't get to tell him that, he can still tap into the information that's seeded into my DNA. And that's where that intuition goes into.
Yeah.
Right? And so in a world where it's hard to have discernment of knowing what's real and what's fake, you have to be able to trust yourself.
Yeah.
right? And knowing when to trust yourself. I get visions about the future. As a futurist, I'm always thinking about what is to come. And so when things happen, I'm not surprised. Y'all want me to react like it's some new news, and I'm like, this was supposed to happen.
It was always
y'all didn't
coming.
see it? You're too busy looking at your timeline. You understand me? Instead of being in tune with time.
Yeah.
Right? To be in time and on time. As somebody with success, though, somebody who has achieved monetary success, how do you think that has an effect on your gifts? Do you start seeing the world more material? Right? And does it affect that immaterial plane that you have connection to? How does it affect your decision making?
I don't think that it really affects like how I see the world, right? It just plays a part of the world. It only changes what I can afford, right?
Talk to me.
That's really it. I remain on the same like playing field inside. Money didn't make this, right? I wasn't created for money. So I think when that happens, that means you've given money the power. And that's not how I live my life. That's why I won't do anything for money, right? It has to be in alignment with me. Like, I don't care how much money somebody offer me. If it is not in alignment with how I live my life, how I feel, I'm not doing it. And that's whether I was broke or when I had it, right? I was saying no when I didn't have it and needed it.
Yeah.
I've made a commitment to be obedient with this life. And so I do know that sometimes when you are very broke, we make decisions out of desperation, out of survival. I understand it, but that's just not who I am, right? And so even with success, and I think a lot of times when people haven't had success, they just assume that people with it will do anything for it. And that's not the truth, right? It only changes what I can afford. But it cannot buy me peace. It cannot buy me joy. It cannot give me love. It cannot keep me safe. The only thing that can do that is my relationship with self and God who created me. And that's it.
That's beautiful.
The new tour is an experience. I think that beyond just talking to people is how can you activate them there. I think that we're burnt out from transformation that don't work. We want to know what can we experience in real time, and that's what I want to do with this. Now on this tour we got the music. You feel me? Now on this tour I want it to be interactive and super active. Right? So it really allows you to be interactive with your community and your community to really be able to support you. Right? And so it's more important that people buy their tickets early as possible and get multiple tickets and things of that nature, because it's basically you supporting, right, the Renaissance, supporting what you want to see, supporting more of what you want to see. That's why we call it the Save Yourself Renaissance. We added that particular part on there because the revolution always puts us in a survival mode. Like, we always got to disrupt and break down something, and there are many things to break down, but there's many things to reawaken. There's many things to push, right? And for us, it's about pushing higher spirituality, higher technological intellect, higher experiential rituals that we can utilize so it has a cognitive enhancing effect. You understand me? To where we're going to them spaces and we're being activated and that feeling stays with us.
In a world where I think generations are doing anything for money, right? And I mean anything.
It's scary out there now.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of principles. We've lost a lot of morals, right? And most people are not guided by their values. And so they get money, but they lose themselves. And then they try to spend the money to try to find themselves again, right? And it's like you should focus on finding yourself first so you would know what you're guided by, right? Because accomplishments don't fill voids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It makes you avoid, right? And a lot of people go through this long journey only to come back around to themselves and be like, damn, I got this big house and I still feel empty, right? I got all these accomplishments I can name, but I don't know myself. And so they're then trying to spend the rest of that life in some spiritual awakening alignment. They start doing toads, you know what I mean, ayahuasca. They go on all kind of journeys to try to find themselves again.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that wellness is the future of wealth, right? We talk a lot about economic empowerment, financial literacy, which is 100% necessary. But I think it's burning out our culture because we were never meant to be a people to chase money, right? And so even when we get it, we still feel disconnected because we've always been a spiritual people. There's a way to make money through social entrepreneurship, impact, to do good and feel good about your accomplishments. But I think that we're doing the opposite. We're sacrificing ourselves for monetary gain, right? What is that advice to specifically the generation of women coming up now who feel like this world is forcing them into survival mode? And so those survival principles saying, I'm going to do anything I need to do to survive. You understand me? Including getting rid of those ancestral principles that we once honored.
I think it's to kind of go back a little bit. If you know who you are, right? If you know who you are, money can't change you or influence you to do anything outside of yourself. So you can make as much money as you desire safely if you know who you are.
So you think they're disconnected from their identity?
Right. I think a lot of who you are referring to are people who don't know themselves, right? If you don't know yourself, you'll fall for anything, right? If you don't know what you want, you will accept anything. But if you know who you are, you can have millions and millions of dollars and you will stay rooted. And you will be able to help others also maybe stay rooted, but financially bless other people. I don't think we are meant to be without. I think that we are meant to be whole in our body, in our mind, but also be able to live without financial suffering, right? And so many of us, we do suffer. I have suffered. But I think that God rewards us by staying true to who we were created to be. Now, we do know that there are some people who gain tons of money and they've made a different deal. Understand?
Yeah.
And they are a lost people, which is, I think, who you're referring to. Like people who are lost, they make lost decisions and they use money in the wrong way. They use social media in the wrong way. They use a platform in the wrong way that continues to lead other lost people, right? I think it all goes back to if you know who you are, then you can be safe. You can be trusted. You can be trusted with the journey that you're given. That's just how I feel about it. But it all starts with self and doing the real work of like, who am I? What am I here to do? You know, who am I here to bless? Who am I here to serve? When it comes to our people, when it comes to love and compassion and kindness, like I feel like that's my purpose in life is to help others, but to be kind, to be compassionate, to help someone be seen. Like I see you, you know. So many people can go their whole life and not feel seen, and that takes them away from seeing themselves.
Yes.
Sometimes we just need that encouragement.
Yeah, it said that when, and like if you study like PSYOPs, how CIA runs PSYOPs, and how it works on social media, it's that when a person is like seeking an identity, they're the ones easiest to be manipulated and brainwashed.
Yep.
Right? Because they're looking forward in everything. So they get thrown into these rabbit holes, these loopholes, right? And so you say, oh, I resonate with that. Then they start taking you down this influencer rabbit hole or whatever, and you mask that as yourself because you were seeking something. And that's why I always start with know yourself. Like, I'm not coming on here looking for nothing, right? Yep. And so as we're scrolling, we see an information, oh, this is how you be a man, or this is what it means to be a woman, or this is who is against you. And he was like, oh, you recognize me? And I'm going to keep saying this stat that loneliness is more dangerous than 15 cigarettes a day. And this is the loneliest generation ever. So they're seeking comfort in everything, no matter what it is, right? Food is like the number one comfort. You know what I'm saying? They literally call it comfort food.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Food is the number one comfort, but it can never bring you any true joy or intimacy. It just has that chemical bonding reaction that makes you feel that way.
Temporarily.
It's very temporarily. And so even my mother was asking, like, even though you went through a health scare that got you into your vegan journey, and a lot of people have those health scares that get them on a vegan journey, but how did you stay disciplined, right? Because the hardest part is not getting started, right? It's staying, right? And thriving in it. So what was that catalyst? What was that thing in your mind to say, okay, I'm not going back to that piece of chicken? Because I remember when I was a kid, and I tried to do vegetarian, and I was sneaking on the table eating KFC. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I decided there's no rules. I can eat it if I don't want it to.
Yeah.
And my mother, she's an herbalist, so she was the first person I seen go vegetarian in my life, right? Or pescatarian, right? And we grew up at this a private school right across the street with this bakery. And the bakery had vegan options. They had tofu burgers. This is probably like the oldest vegan bakery in America. For 40 years, they had these type of options.
Where is this at?
It was in Oakland. It's no longer there.
Oh, okay.
But this is where we grew up. And they made all the food fresh, right? So I grew up in a bakery to where we rolled the dough, we made the bread.
Oh, that's amazing.
The pies, etc. So I used to steal a lot from the bakery.
And that's his business, okay?
But it was beautiful because I did not realize that everybody didn't have this experience.
Yeah.
So getting on social media, the newest thing was like Dr. Sebi and the alkaline diet. But we already grew up knowing about healthy eating and what wasn't healthy. So we'd always read the back of the labels for monosodium glyceride or whether there was pork in it growing up Muslim. And so it was beautiful to see this to become a trend, right? And it to become a lifestyle for many people, right? But again, many people pick it up, but then they put it back down. How do you pick it up and keep it up?
I want to live. Right? I was sick and thought I was going to die. And so if something healed me, why would I go against it? It's really that simple for me. Like, I do know that food is the biggest addiction in the world. It ain't drugs. It is food. We are more addicted to food than anything else. And it also kills us more than any drug. And if I know so many people watching this and listening, right, who will eat, we're going to say, macaroni and cheese.
That mac.
And they know that it tears their stomach up. Yet, they'll eat it anyway. Why? If our body says, I don't like that, it does not make me feel well, why would I give it to myself again? Right? So I knew how sick I was. And I was vegetarian in high school. And then I went back to eating fish and chicken when me and my husband got married or moved in together. So I haven't eaten pork or red meat since I was 15. I'm allergic, like most of us, to dairy, right? So it was easier for me to get rid of turkey and chicken and fish. So I never tried to force anybody to live the way I live. And I always give grace because I know how hard it can be. It's hard for people to let that cheese go. Or the chicken, okay?
That cheese, boy,
right?
boy.
Yeah, but I was not eating terrible. But I wasn't eating to feel a certain way. I used to eat to look a certain way. That's a disease all in itself. So when I discovered, eating plants and fruit make me feel better. Like, I had a headache for 1 year and 7 months in the back of my head that debilitated me. There were days I could not walk or see. Why would I want to go back to that? I don't want to feed whatever, because whatever was happening is still inside of my body. Let's be clear. But something has to activate it. And if the food was activating it, but now I changed it and deactivated it, why would I want to wake it back up?
Right.
That's just how I feel. And I feel like I really feel like it was the chicken and the turkey because of all the ways that they're making it now. I was going to an acupuncturist during this time when I was sick, and she would be, she would put like the needles in my head and all over me, and I was still eating regular back then, not knowing what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And she told me, she said, you should maybe not eat chicken. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Right? Girl, shut up, girl.
Yeah.
And she told me, she said, listen, if you eat chicken, you should have raised it from a baby and then, know the chicken personally. She said, but then if you know it, why would you want to eat it? I said, you know what? I ain't coming back to visit you because you trying to get in my head, right? And that didn't change my mind. It just didn't. It was like a year later before I made the decision to go vegan. But she was right. It just wasn't, it wasn't making me feel well. I mean, it literally took 10 days of eating vegan and my headache disappeared after a year and 7 months. And taking every drug the doctors offered me, every shot, every steroid, everything. I was a guinea pig.
Yeah.
And nothing worked. It probably made me worse because I was just taking whatever they gave me. But 10 days, my headache disappeared. Why would I not want to keep on keeping on with that, right? I mean, I really just feel like I like to listen to my body. Even now, like I'm allergic to soy. When I first went vegan, I was eating, tofu and all the things. And then I started to feel different in my body. Mm-hmm. It makes you more aware.
Yeah.
Right? Now I don't eat gluten.
Yeah.
Because I started having joint pain when I would eat like certain bread or certain pasta. I was like, what, something ain't right. So I started keeping a food journal. When you become like aware and you pay attention to your body, it will tell you what it likes and what it doesn't. And so I just started listening.
But I think you also will be considered interoceptive, right? I'm hyper interoceptive, where I'm sensitive to what's going on inside my body. But that also happens to people who are very intuitive, right? So somebody who is gifted, right, is responding to what's going on inside them, right, in a deeper manner. And women are most likely more interoceptive, right? That particular part of your brain is more hyperactive, right? And especially spiritual women. So you're always thinking about how these things are affecting you, right? How is it affecting your dreams, your visions, right? Your daily mood, right? Your emotions. And so with that being said, a lot of people are ignoring those check engine lights on. You know what I mean? They just let them keep going and it becomes their baseline.
Yep.
I'm used to feeling like this, then so what? They don't know how much better they could feel.
We're not supposed to live in pain.
Never.
We are not supposed to live in pain. We have convinced ourselves, this is normal.
Yeah.
I convinced myself that for many years, like, I'm just supposed to feel like this. No, we're not.
Right.
We're not meant to just be here suffering constantly in our body. And so I don't know where that mentality came from. But I do know that when I was sick, I fell into depression, right? I had manic panic attacks. I just was not well mentally. I couldn't even stay awake long. I had chronic fatigue. I could get up, sleep all night, wake up, take my kids to school, come back home, and go back to bed, set my alarm to wake up to pick them up from school. That's not normal, right? But what I realized, I also had asthma that started as an adult. When I went vegan, my depression left. My mind got clear. I would see people that I've known forever and ever, and they'd be like, you look different. There's like light.
Yeah.
Like your eyes look different. I'd be like, I don't know. But it was like a different type of light and joy took over. Like I no longer was eating suffering.
Yeah.
Because that was the other thing, and I'm not that vegan to be like, you need to go vegan. I'll never ever do that. I'll never be her. But my truth is, in prayer one night, God revealed to me, because the depression was so bad, I went to a sanctuary, just visiting animals, and just seeing how now chickens are like, they're mass produced. Like it's crazy how they're farming and factory farming, and they're in a state of depression. They're in a state of panic. They're so afraid. And God was like, you were eating that depression. You were eating that panic. I was feeling all the things I was eating. And when I stopped, I no longer felt that way.
Right.
I also didn't even realize until a year after being vegan, we were moving, and I was cleaning out my medicine cabinet that I had not used my inhaler. I forgot I had asthma. I've not had to use an inhaler since. When I say it's crazy, but that's the body saying, hey, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
So that's my truth.
That's beautiful. Because our body's always trying to heal itself. So if we're eating the wrong food, then we're spending so much energy just trying to heal ourselves, right? And so that means it's always overworking.
Yeah.
So then it can't send energy to free up for your gifts. You know what I mean? For your cognition. Like, one thing I used to have, because I think I've been dealing with like nootropics and adaptogens and like functional mushrooms for like the last 10 years now, right? And I used to hate brain fog, right? And when I used to try to learn, I used to feel dyslexic, right? And I used to be like, I know I'm smarter than this. I know I should remember all this stuff that I just learned and have the ability of perfect recall. But it wasn't hitting like the way I knew it should. I knew that there was a misalignment. And that's when I start, diving into different remedies that I could try and different lifestyles that I could try, right? And so that's when I started taking nootropics, right? And I believe in our culture, what we particularly need, because I'm seeing this trend in wellness everywhere, right? Now everybody's adding protein, right? Creatine is having this new rebranding moment. Everybody's adding mushrooms to everything, right? Because capitalism sees a trend, they hop on it to sell customers, and that's where you got to watch out for quality, right? But particularly if I look at our community, we have some of the worst health disparities amongst all people, yet the health trends haven't hit us yet. Right? We should be doing all the run clubs in the world. We should be doing all the hike clubs in the world. There's a space called Walk Good LA, right? I love what they do as a community. It's beautiful. Yeah. There's the sound healer communities that's out here. This should be the renaissance that occurs right now. Yeah. Because when I was going past a liquor store, and it was 3 rappers that was on the advertisement, and next to each rapper was a different liquor. And I'm like, why can't that be a coffee brand? Why can't that be some kind of wellness product next to them? They look at us and think that they can only use us to serve our community's poison a lot of times. And a lot of it is our fault, right? You have to shift the narrative over, educate your community, train them up, right? So even advertisers can even look at you as someone that can curate wellness to your community in the first place. Yep. If they look at you only as a conduit of poison, what are you saying about your brand? Yeah. Right? What are you saying about yourself? And then us being in Men's Mental Health Month, a lot of us are hypocrites because on one end we will champion mental health, but the products we sell are directly damaging to our mental health and our cognition. And I say cognition because our clarity, our ability to think, I think is the future. Time is no longer the most valuable asset. Cognition is, because you can have all the time in the world, but if you can't think clearly, right, then your time is not clear. You can't use it. You can't be productive and successful. And so most of our time is going to scrolling and trying to get our attention back, but we can't focus. And you can't focus, you can't manifest, right? And so I want us to go through this renaissance of not just eating clear, but as you said, for the intention, right? Not eating clear, but eating healthy for that intention of hyper wellness. Yeah. Because we have to do it better than anybody else because we have it at the worst, right? Like I want to do a whole cognitive festival. It's like fitness, tech, cognition, the whole nine, where it's 10,000 people outside and it's a whole new renaissance because that's how we save each other. Right. And then that means that you can also force capitalism to see that trend. And now it's profitable to do social good as well. When I was studying like coffee, I had to go. I go deep into things when I get into a new industry. Right.
I believe that about you.
Yeah. A little deep. I study a little here and there. So I always find these interesting thread lines that I know that it's just given to me, right, to give to the world. And one was a study of how like the liquor industry lobbied Hollywood, right, to create these narratives around alcohol, right? So a lot of like masculinity is connected to liquor, right? Because Hollywood will create all these scenes of manly men drinking, right? They would
Yeah.
show these olden scenes of warriors going to a tavern or a bar or a marine drinking his problems through. And they were smart enough to know not to make it their liquor, just liquor period in general, so that your defense system doesn't go up and thinking you're being marketed to. But in ancient times, these were coffee houses. Coffee houses were spaces to where you would, because coffee is always seen as a stimulant of the mind. Like the word mocha and Java, right, and coffee are all African words, right, representing like cities. And then when Europe got it, it represents like the flavors, right, and the taste, right, that came from those spaces and regions. And so we're disconnected from a lot of those ancestral practices of like original men and women knew herbs. They knew how to stimulate their mind when necessary, right? Yeah. When they was talking about they go have a long conversation with somebody, they knew what plant to take so that their cognition would be high. So when I thought about that, I'm like, wow, we would meet at coffee houses and have conversations about philosophy and astronomy and science and politics. And that's when certain spaces, when they got coffee, they would have renaissance and revolutions because the people were thinking clearly, right? And so I now have created a movement where we curate these spaces everywhere I tour now. So we'll go to a coffee shop or a restaurant and just have like a lecture or the community to meet. And so we rented out this bar and they let us use it. The owners, very nice people. And I remember talking bad about alcohol.
And it's a bar.
Right, they looking at me. But I got to say what I got to say. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I always got to get the full story out so people can connect to that meaning. And we got all these terms of traditional masculinity and traditional womanhood. And it's like, let's go to the original. You know what I mean? As original people, we were in tune with the earth, right? And we did things to stimulate us, not things to depress us. Yeah. Because these things are depressants. So our bars are spaces of disconnection, not connection. We go there and we drink and forget each other and forget our experiences, not remember them. Right? And so anybody that's intentional about wellness and health, you're saving more people than you can ever meet. You know what I mean? And having such a profound effect, but it has to be at a root level, right? We can't be Band-Aid warriors to where say, all right, I'm going to be in for this cause on Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm going to be a part of the problem. Yeah. Don't work that way.
This is
not
true.
If we want true impact that lasts over time.
Yeah.
And I don't just want us to have the rituals. I want us to have neuroadaptation to where we connect those rituals of eating right with experience of reading and learning and being in connection and having a better social life with others so that they stick. And that becomes our new baseline, is filling up here, not filling down here, right? And then we're working to maintain that or evolve. Yeah. And also at this, for you, is like, when you went vegan, how did that affect your dreams?
They got bigger.
Yeah.
Little known fact, some people know and some don't. I've said it before. I sleep with my eyes open. Wow. I know.
How do you sleep with your eyes open?
I don't know. My mama did. My sister does, and I do as well. I close them to go to sleep. They just open up while I'm asleep.
Do you cover them with like an eye patch or something?
Don't.
No?
No, I probably should, but because it'd be scaring people. But when I'm deep, when I'm deep in the sleep, the more open they are.
Yeah.
But my mama, like how you looking at me right now, is how she used to sleep. And so I always joke and say I see more when I'm asleep than when I'm awake. I dream every day, as we all do. I dream in color. You can do the supernatural in your dreams. I do believe that there are things that happen in our dreams to keep us sane when we're awake. Sometimes people talk to me about, a lot of people talk to me about their dreams because they know I've studied dreams, for a very long time. And I'll tell people, they're like, I was fighting in my dream. I was jumping off buildings and doing all these things. And I'm like, yeah, because you can do that in your sleep so that you can stay sane when you're awake. Because imagine trying to jump off a building while you're awake. Yeah. Imagine fighting every day. Right. You would lose your mind or your life. So sometimes in our dreams, we do things so that we can stay sane, Yeah. But my dreams, they've always been very vivid, but they're even more so now. But also my gift just became more clear, just in seeing people and talking to people. God just shows up right? Things just start to flutter in my ear. I call it a flutter because sometimes it feels like a hummingbird. It's like right here, and the voice carries through the wind. Those things became sharper.
Yeah.
Just being able to see just became more and more clear.
Yeah.
So, but those dreams be like, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a gift to where, at least it's I would say a skill that I've trained, that I consider a gift, right? Number one, synchronicity, always finding the meaning in the otherwise meaningless. I can connect things to where they end up turning into keys, something that I know I can give to the world. And so one of them is like, when I see somebody that I think is famous and it's not them, I know immediately I'm about to see somebody that's actually famous, right? So it happens every single time. I'm like, was that so-and-so? Nope, that wasn't them.
But I'm about to see them.
5 minutes later, I see somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what I've learned to do is not to be surprised. I think the more surprised you are about something, right, the less likely it happens, right? And so when I see things, I don't even tell people anymore because that's being in this act of surprise. That is not you. Right, it's this thing happening to you, right? And maybe it's this thing that I'm doing, right? Which is completely different than just being in flow and harmony with that. I think a lot of people just become burdens when they're overthinking them, right? And so they want to know why it's happening to them. Why don't other people see it? Or why am I not granted success from it, right? And I think it's mostly because you're not living in flow and understanding, and you're repeating a lesson about that gift instead of using it, right? So that over-questioning phase can get people stuck in this rut.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I never like being in ruts. So I'm always looking for, okay, what's the lesson in this then? Because obviously it's something I'm not learning, which is why I'm not moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you should never move to the next level until you learn. Right. And so I implore people right now, like, think about what you haven't learned yet and why you stuck at the life you at. That had nothing to do with you being a bad person, right? Your past, none of those things. It's something you're not learning. So you can't graduate.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? You don't pass a kid that keeps flunking just because he's tired of flunking.
Yeah.
Like, no, get the lesson.
Yeah.
What is it that you're not understanding? Or maybe it's you need to go into a different field, right? Maybe this is not for you. Because even in class, they're going to change education to a way where it becomes customized to your neurodevelopment, right? Maybe you want to be something that's not in alignment with your gifts because it looks good on somebody else, so you think it'll look good on you.
I say that all the time.
You know what I mean? And I think that's dangerous. I know a lot of people want to be warm like you. They say that when influencers, you're 400% more likely to influence people when you have that warmth of personality than just that aesthetic. And there's a lot of people who put on the aesthetic, but they don't have it in them. You know what I mean? You show up on days where I know you have to choose to be joyful because people have an expectation of light from you, right? On those dark days, right, where you get angry, where you know you don't always want to show up in a way that people want you to show up. How do you still make that choice to walk in that light, to be like, I'm about to still show y'all what this good energy like, you know?
Oh, it's my truth though, right? But choosing joy, I do believe joy lives inside of me, right? And there are days I have to choose to pull from it.
Yeah.
Right. They're definitely dark days, and I have shared those days as well. But I've been in the dark.
Yeah.
It ain't no fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to reside there.
Yeah.
You know, so I pour from the joy that I know is there.
Yeah.
Because I also know I'm on assignment.
Yeah.
And my assignment is to spread love, to be joyful, right? So that others can see that who need it. And when I can't pour from it in the most authentic way, if it's too heavy, I don't show up.
Man, that's key right there. You can say that again. No, it's real. I don't.
Because I don't want to be fake.
People call me, I won't answer. It got nothing to do with you. It got everything to do with me. I'm not in that space.
If I can't show up the way I want you to feel, I'm not going to show up.
Yeah, it's capacity.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think capacity matters so much. Spiritual capacity, cognitive capacity, mental capacity. And I don't think people do that enough because a lot of people are people pleasers because they feel like if I'm not doing something for you, you won't love me. And a lot of people learn to love that way or to be loved that way. You don't think that you can do nothing for somebody and you're still deserving of love, right? I had to check myself on that because I was always doing stuff for family members. And I'm like, why? Right? Why do I feel like I always got to do something for somebody? When they call, I got to be handing out some kind of favor for them to appreciate me. Why can't I do nothing and they still love me still? Yeah. Right? And so when you get to that place, you start saying no a lot more and see who still show up when you say no. You better believe it.
Come on,
I mean? I know what you're calling me for. It's a no. But it's glad to hear from you, though,
I'm so good to hear from you, baby. It's going to be a no today, though.
Yes, it's a no. But tell me how your day going besides that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's so important because people feel it. We got these phones and these devices where you can just call people up. And they feel like they're entitled to your time because they have access to you. Yeah. And it's like, no, you only have access to me if I allow you to. So calling me does not grant you access or entitlement. It's when I answer that does. Yeah. So if you do answer for people, you should show up, right? But I believe that I'm a type of person that if we're running a race and I get tired, I don't care if you overlap me because I know my rest is going to allow me to overlap you 10 times. So you might get 4 laps ahead. I'm going to just relax. Don't worry about it. But when I'm fully charged, I'm going to be 10 laps ahead. Yeah. That's how I think about life. So I might rest Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But my Saturday is going to be worth 2 weeks of your life, maybe 5. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that rest is so important because we talk about it in this very capitalistic way about labor, right? Just work. And that's not even how it works. Yeah. You talked about being in an Uber. Matter of fact, I learned something about you today that I didn't realize, and I appreciate for you. When you did that collaboration with Whole Foods in 2020, I used to get that Temple bacon sandwich all the time. I was reading that today like, she made that? Yeah. I used to go get it all the time. And I had never known that was you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many I consumed and how much money I gave Whole Foods. Right. But that was my favorite sandwich from there. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd get my chips with it. Yeah. And it was cracking.
Yeah, I used to get it too. Yeah. I can't even eat it no more because I'm allergic to soy now.
I ate too many of them.
You know, I ate enough
no more. Yeah, I definitely did. But that's dope because I would literally go there, and that was because of you, right? Out of all those things, I was in that hot food section. I would know I want the Temple bacon sandwich, and then I would leave. Yeah. So it's powerful to understand how the things that we do have impact in people's lives, and then later on we figure out those connections, or sometimes we never do, right? And you have to even be okay with that. You know what I mean? Have an impact that you don't even know about.
That's right. You know what I mean? You know, if we are just trying to live in purpose, it doesn't matter how many people you reach, right? You should feel fulfilled by knowing like, oh, I just showed up. And if it's one person, great. If it's millions, great. But I don't need to get a reward for that, or I don't need to encounter each person for them to tell me. My truth is I showed up and did what was put on my heart to do. And I'm all right with that.
So you have a loving marriage that you show the world, which is another thing that inspires people, right? You said before that your husband was a police officer that you helped retire. And for many, that was a controversial idea, right? Because everybody has this perception of how they want to control people's lives. And most of the time they base it on their own failures or their lack of, right? When Wendy Williams spoke on it, how did you handle that? Because it's always interesting to see how very positive people handle conflict.
Yeah. When it happened, you know, I was so excited because for years I've been wanting to, you know, take him out of that job so he could pursue, you know, his own passions. But that morning, I remember like yesterday, 'cause we coming up on it right now. I think the anniversary of the time. But my phone was going off and people were messaging me and texting me like, Wendy Williams talking about you on the show. And I was flattered. I was like, oh my,
okay, got
my God, Wendy Williams know who I am, you know. I was in my pajamas in my office working. I went on back to working. Somebody else sent it and they sent me the actual video. And I was like, oh, let me see. And I watched it and I was like, oh. Oh, well, she don't know me. I put my phone back down. Yeah. Went back to work and then I just had like this tap. God was like, no, I need you to give her grace in this moment, but I need you to address it. And I was like, but I don't care, Lord. And it was just like a nagging thing. So I just turned my camera on and said what I said. You know, my real thought was, and still is, the pain she must be in. The pain, I mean, for years, the pain this woman had to have been enduring to want to capitalize on anybody else's trauma or pain or downfall, or to shed darkness on anyone. You got to be in pain to make that your profession. And I thought, she's never experienced true love. She doesn't know what partnership really looks like. And in the moment, if you go back and watch the video that I prayed for in that moment, God showed me what was coming. Because I say in there, I hope someone sees you when you're not well. And I still think that no one sees her. There's no one to love her and see her the way she needs. And I'm still praying for her because I know it's long suffering.
That's beautiful. I often think about how I handle conflicts. It don't always come out that beautiful.
This
I
is
pray
the
that
new
it
tab.
does. Yeah.
The old tab would have been on the get back.
Yeah, this
spirit.
vegan, she don't beef. You know what I'm saying?
right, ain't no beef.
But no, I mean, there's people that speak upon my name sometime, and I let them, because I think the more times you try to defend yourself, the guiltier you look, at least in the court of social media.
Yeah.
You decide what things you want to address, and if they align with you or if it speaks to your spirit. But I think that it's important to note, because people of joy, I think, go through the more attacks than anybody.
Oh, whew,
because
you
number one,
about?
you have a higher baseline to maintain.
Yeah.
If you're a pessimistic person, it's very easy to stay pessimistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As an optimistic person, it's a personal battle every single day.
Yeah.
Right? I posted today or yesterday, I'm like, it's hard not to get a little bit jaded in this world. You know what I mean? Because especially when you're fighting for people that don't fight for themselves. And you think that the obvious thing should be seen, but you realize sometimes you have a gift to see things that others can't.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when the gift sometimes can feel like a curse on certain days, where it's like, don't you see it? Don't you see it? The way to do things, the way to live, the way we should move, right? And they can't. And that's when that becomes part of your duty. As much as you have the capacity to fight for others as well, but always leave something in the tank to fight for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's when you have those days of rest. And I just shut my phone off yesterday, and I went to sleep like around like 8, 9 o'clock, which is not me. And I said, I'm going to wake up rested and joyful. Yeah. You know what I mean? I had this conversation with Tabitha Brown. I'm not about to let the world enter this conversation on my spirit right now.
Come on.
Right?
I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you. You know what I mean? Because other days I'm just frustrated. You know what I mean? I might have got on live and cursed some people out.
You know, misery loves company.
Yeah.
Right? But positivity can stand alone.
Yeah, you can say that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's people love to attack light. Right?
Well, a light also attacks.
Yeah.
Light attacks people's darkness, and it's not that you're doing it intentionally.
Yeah.
But if you bring a light in a room, it illuminates darkness.
Yeah, and it disturbs darkness.
Yeah,
you
because
know,
it make people see parts of themselves they're not ready to address.
Yeah, and they also, you know, because you know people always love to call me a witch or you know say negative things, and I've been very vocal, like who I am. Right, I love the Lord. Right, I have lived my life openly and honestly. And it always blows me away that success and the amazing life that I do have, they rather give credit to the darkness than to the light. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
You just want to be like,
Yeah.
oh, but what I realize is that means if they can give the credit to the darkness, then they know they ain't got to do no work.
So they feel good about not being in their life.
Yeah, because then it's like, oh, wait, she's saying that she actually lived an obedient life. I'm going to have to do work if that's the truth.
Right.
And that is my truth. But if they can discredit that and say, oh, no, she's just a witch and she's just living, you know, for the darkness, then it makes them feel better about their life.
Which is disrespectful to God.
It is so disrespectful to God. That's what I'm like,
Why do you think that
give God
the devil
credit?
can bless you greater than God can.
Will you say it again? That's
It
what
don't
I'm like,
make
how
no
you
sense.
want to give that
You know what
credit?
I mean? If a man or woman goes after their dreams and their goals and they do it the right way, why don't you not give credit to God? Right? I was
Because
always
then they
taught,
gotta do
always
work.
give praise due to Allah or God.
Yes.
In all things. But I see so many people crediting the devil for success.
Yeah, because that's what it then it means you got to do work.
Right.
You got to be obedient. You got to be loved. You got to be compassionate. Everybody don't want to do that work. People are comfortable in their dark space. And so if I make you uncomfortable with light, baby, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to take it up with the Lord, honey.
I'm still not over the fact that you sleep with your eyes open.
Me either.
I think,
okay?
but it kind of makes sense that, you know, when your brain waves go to a certain point where you get into a deep meditative state, and that's when you are at that highest level of like intuition, right? To where you can be at your brain wave activity is at that same space to where it's like psychic ability, and these things are scientifically known, right? And I know people think they need science to understand spirituality all the time because our generation is disconnected, right? But I'm thinking about this idea that you literally always have your eyes open. And so you don't need to go into this space to where you have to like deeply meditate for your brain to be in that calm state. Because if your brain can do that where your eyes are open, then it can do that, of course, during waking hours as well. Right? So it probably has a lot to do with the fact that your brain can reach these meditative states during waking times. So it's like not only just having dreams when you're asleep, right? But having that premonition, right? When you awake, that intuition. Because we are very perceptive. Most people, they can't trust their gut because their gut is unhealthy. You know what I mean? So, of course, they can't follow those instincts.
You done said something right there. Because gut health.
We get you some of that prebiotic chocolate. But you know, that's another campaign.
Okay, yeah.
You know, speaking of Lion's Mane, I know you be cooking them Lion's Mane
love a
sandwiches.
Lion's
How did you
Mane.
discover Lion's Mane?
I can't remember how I discovered it, but you know, when you're on a vegan journey, you know, mushrooms
all
become
the
your
stuff,
friend,
yeah.
you know. And I don't remember the first time that I discovered it, but I know that when I did, you know, because I be reading everything about, you know, what I'm eating, especially when you've been sick. And I was like, oh, wait, this is a brain food. Like, of course, mushrooms, they spongy like the brain, but lion's mane specifically.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and so I've had like lion's mane coffee and I, of course, cook them, and I'm like, oh, they even have vitamins. I was like, come on, lion's mane.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What it tastes like?
Depending on how you season it, you know, I love to make it like, you know, chicken. Sometimes I'll shred it and season it with like nori fukake to make it taste like crab. It can kind of take on almost any flavor that you season it with. Yeah.
That's what's up.
And texture wise, you know, steak.
Yeah. I just think it's just a dope idea of like eating brain food, heart food, gut food, right? Like that's the real comfort food.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You should be comfortable with that idea of food that energizes you, remineralizes you, stimulates you.
Yeah.
Right? We have to get death off the dinner table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you can go and you can go march for cancer and you can go donate, but the best protest is on the plate.
You better say it.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't say it. He did.
Hey,
okay.
Hey,
you right.
I
Come
said
on.
twice.
And say it nice. Okay.
I want to call my sisters at this time.
Oh, okay.
I know I don't have that much time with you, and I don't want to waste any.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh man, let me call Andrea.
We
She
talking
is
about
the
food. My
biggest
stomach
fan.
over here growling like crazy. I was
Well,
like,
you know,
they
you can
probably
have
picked
one of these chocolate
they
bars
probably
at
picked
least.
it up
I
on
don't know if it's too early for you. It's
listen,
cacao.
Come on.
And we
And
about
it's lion's mane.
Lion's mane and cacao. It's prebiotic. It's all.
I'm
Andrea,
excited.
I am here with the good sister Tabitha Brown.
Hey, girl.
And I would love for you to ask your question.
How you doing, hon?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, you know, I actually met you a couple of years ago at your vegan restaurant in LA.
Oh, okay.
I was introduced to you by my best friend, Nafisha, and her husband, Alphonse.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to actually thank you because it was a moment when I met you where you had looked at me and you said, you have beautiful skin. And that really resonated with me at that time because I literally had just had my daughter a couple of years ago, and I had suffered from hyperpigmentation behind it. So I was really dealing up until that point with serious insecurities behind my skin.
Wow.
And so, I mean, to the point where I became even depressive, and I'm not even a depressive person. Because it stole my confidence, and I'd always been a confident person. So I was just like, when you said that in that moment, like, how did she know? Because even up until I had met you, I was nervous, and I was just like, I wasn't feeling beautiful. I wasn't feeling myself. I was having the insecurities regarding my skin. And in that moment, you said that to me, and it resonated so deep. It was just like, how did she know to say that to me? You know, because I deal with these like self-perception issues. You know, I perceive myself a lot different than other people perceive me. And so I'm a lot more critical of myself. So when you said that, it just really did something for my spirit. And it was also one of the reasons why I'm like, this is one of the reasons why I love the Brown, because I had watched you from your days of Facebook and when you was living at your other home and you would do your videos, and it always resonated with me. Like, you always just seemed so genuine. And when you said that to me, it just, I don't know, it's just really into my heart, and it did something for me. It did something for me in how I view myself. And, you know, at that time I was working on my skin. It was definitely had gotten better, but I don't know, for you to just point that out, you know, what I was dealing with at the time just really, really, you know, helped me.
Do you have a question, Andrea?
I just have a question. I just wanted to thank her for that. Because that always resonated with me in my spirit. And, you know, if I could ask you a quick question, you've achieved a lot of success, you know, achieved a lot. Do you still feel as if you still need to achieve more? Do you still feel as if, you know, you're in survival mode, or there's still more that you need to get to, you know, in your life? Or do you feel calm and in harmony and okay where you are right now with your success? Or do you feel like there's still so much more to go for?
There is definitely so much more to do. I was telling your brother earlier, I feel like I'm just getting started. You know, I feel my honest truth is I don't feel like I'm done until God calls me home.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Because that's when that means the assignment is up.
Yeah.
If I'm here, if I wake up every day, that means there is still work for me to do. There may not be huge work, but there's still work to do if I'm here, whether that's spreading more love or operating in my gift, being obedient, you know, helping people see themselves or be heard. It's still work to do, but I am very much so in harmony, and I feel great about where I am. But I also am very present, and I know that this is not it.
Thank you, Andrea.
But thank you for sharing with me about your skin. I appreciate you sharing that with me. That is just also confirmation, you know, when God works and when he shows us things, sometimes I don't know it until later, like in moments like this. Sometimes he will show me you in perfection, right? And you don't see it, but I see complete, beautiful as you should see yourself, right? And so it's a reminder for you, like, oh, wait, if she can see me as this is like, I'm just being a vessel in that moment. So I don't see imperfection because God doesn't see imperfection. He sees what he created, which is beauty.
Wow.
And that's what I felt like you were a vessel from God. That was like, Andrea, you're okay.
Yes, you are.
Work through it, you know, and that's what I felt like in that moment. Like it was, you know, like you were being a vessel for me, you know, to give me a sign and a signal to like, you okay, calm your nerves.
Yes, I love that.
You know, so I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you, hon.
Love you, sis. Peace.
Love you too. Thank you.
Oh, I love it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, because my sister, she always grew up with skin issues, and that was like probably the most prominent thing that I would know she would have an insecurity about.
Wow.
So for you to say that is powerful to hear that as well. You know what I mean? Ever since she was younger, like her whole life.
Wow.
And now it's like more clear and beautiful. And she just got married, you know what I mean? So y'all could feel that presence and that energy on her.
Yeah.
You feel me? But
That's
I love
amazing.
that because I look at potential as divine feminine, right? I look at masculine as like when you order things into organization and patterns and steps, right? It's like the logic of something, a system. But divine feminine is like the potential that you see. Right? And everybody doesn't order that into logic to bring it out. Right? So seeing somebody as complete is seeing their potential. Right? And the danger about potential is that, you know, sometimes it's what you see is not what others see. Right? So, and sometimes it's what you would do if you was in a position. So we can see potential in family and friends, but they don't see it in themselves, and you're consistently projecting, like, if I was in your space, this is what I would do with your position. And it's like, but I don't see that for myself.
Yeah.
So we are guided to help people see things for themselves that they don't see yet. And we can never force it, but that nudge, that push in that direction.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes I meet young men and I try to give them a message, right? When you see a person that's broken, like, show them they repair itself. Right. And I think that was beautiful about just that message that you shared of like, I see your beauty. I see your complete beauty. I see you in full love.
Yeah.
And I think we're devoid of a lot of that sort of conversation and talk. We don't nurture each other anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we actually feel overwhelmed by nurturing. Yeah.
Yeah. I still be out here nurturing the
Yeah.
people. I think that's part of the assignment.
Now I got one more sister to call.
Come on, sister.
I
How
got
many
two
sisters do you have? You have
I got
two
two.
sisters?
It's only
Okay.
two.
No brothers?
I got 6 brothers.
Well, come on.
Yes, I have brothers.
Come on.
A lot of them. Walaikum salam, Kalima. I am here with the great Tabitha Brown, and I would love for you to ask her a question.
Okay. How you doing, Miss Tabitha?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I definitely have a pretty interesting question because I know you're a woman, you're a businesswoman, and you're married. So my question is, in a world where marriage is declining and women are carrying so much on their shoulders, businesses, families, healing, and legacy, how do you stay anchored in your femininity while nurturing your marriage and growing your purpose? Also, what practices or perspectives help you remain soft yet strong so that your love, business, and spirit don't fall out of alignment?
Well, she came with
Come
it.
on,
She
layered
trying to get an
question,
Oprah
girl.
award.
I think that everything I do, right, I'm a woman while I do it. I never step outside of being a woman, right? I am a wife who is a woman. I am a mother who is a woman. I am a daughter who is a woman. I'm a sister, a friend, while still being a woman. And sometimes that woman requires different energy, but yet she's still feminine and she's still a woman. I'm rooted in my womanhood, right? And who I am. So it never really changes. Even in business, I think, as a woman in business, and especially in a male dominant world, when it comes to being a CEO and having ownership, I show up and I take up my space even more as a woman, intentionally. I
Right.
set intentions like, I ain't gonna feel uncomfortable, because I know I've been in many spaces where that is their intention to make me feel uncomfortable. I got my hair twisted right now, but I rock a real big afro. And so a lot of times in those spaces, I wear my hair bigger because it gives me a boost. But I honestly, I just stay in it. I never come out of it. I think being a woman is a superpower. I think that, God gave us a womb because we are meant to carry, not necessarily the weight of the world, but to carry nonetheless. And so I carry many things with me, which is pride in being a woman, compassion, love, courage. And I think that plays a role in it. But when it comes to, being a wife, like, because I know you said that too, my husband is my partner. Like that's my guy. Like that's my partner. And so I don't think anybody makes me feel more feminine than he does.
That's important.
And so when I need to soften up, he's my go-to, and so I know that he's also my safety. And that also brings me down into like, okay, my soft girl era, as they be saying. But I stay rooted in my womanhood and know where to pull from. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that was beautifully said. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you, kind of.
You too.
All right, I have 2 last things I want to go over with you.
Okay.
One of them is 80% of black women report more severe symptoms going through perimenopause. Right?
Uh-oh.
And there's not a lot of clinical attention.
You make me have a hot flash in here.
And they get less clinical attention than other women.
Mm-hmm.
What are the ways that, number one, I would imagine you start researching about these things as you're going through them, right? And you're working through your remedies, right? And I would love for you to give a word about that, because we do live in a man's world, and so we don't always take in the cycles of a woman. You know what I mean? Men go through their own cycles that we don't even talk about, right? You hit age 40 or 50, your brain chemistry change, your testosterone gets lower, it affects your drive, right? But women go through those changes, and you have hot flashes and sometimes depression or just emotional swings, right? So in dealing with that, what have you learned, and what do you want other women to know about it?
I have learned a lot. I'm still learning. It's an everyday journey. We all go through it, right? And it can start as early as in your 30s. There have been reports of some women with early onset menopause in their 20s, right? And depending on if you have to have like a hysterectomy or things like that will send you in full-on menopause. Perimenopause is the state before you go through menopause. It can last up to 15 years. You're not in full menopause until you have missed your period for 1 year.
Wow.
Right? So you can go 8 months with no period, but if that period come on, you got to start all the way over, right? It's a journey. But what I have learned in this process, that your body is transforming, which means it is deprogramming itself, because you're no longer going to be able to carry children. It's preparing for a new journey, basically. And everything that once was will be no more. So if you can imagine all that your body goes through, right? As a little girl, when you first get your period, it's like, oh my Lord, it's a whole thing. And then you go through that for years and years and years. Now your body is preparing to do the opposite. And so the mood swings, the heat swings, the heat flashes, and even cold flashes. I haven't had yet, but a lot of women experience them. Joint pain, hip pain, itching. Your skin changes, your hair changes. Some women lose their hair. Sleepless nights, right? Things don't taste the same or smell the same. I mean, your body is literally, you're transforming. You're becoming a new woman. It's a whole new person you're becoming. And your sex drive changes. Some days you want it at 5:30, but by 8 o'clock, I don't even want you to look at me, right? This is the truth. So what I have also discovered is we don't have to suffer, right? There are hormone replacements or different treatments that you can get. And there's like a lot of natural remedies. Now, what I will tell you is I started experiencing joint pains, like I was telling you earlier, when I was eating gluten. Never had no problem with gluten.
Yeah.
And I think it was onset because I'm in perimenopause. But when I removed the gluten, okay, my joint pain disappeared. But also, it is not as bad with my hot flashes. Like I get warm, but I don't sweat, if that makes sense, right? I'll wake up and I might be hot, but I'm not drenched anymore. There's also like natural things, of course, women have to take like estrogen, or you can do like a natural supplement, like a estrogen, right? It's more of a natural supplement. But there's also how we eat. I know I haven't eaten it, but when I talk to like family members or girlfriends that eat pork or beef, they are literally living in summertime year round.
Wow.
But when they did a 30-day cleanse, it went away. So sometimes you're feeding Perry, right? Like I know that when I drink my red wine, I might be a little warmer that night. Or if I drink coffee, right, I'm going to act a fool a little bit, okay?
Not on the Supermind.
Okay, but not on that lion's mane, right? But because the caffeine, like sweet tea or things like that, like when I go home to North Carolina, sweet tea is like, you're going to drink a little bit. I'm going to feel it. But we got to listen to our body. Even, just like we talked about earlier, just listening to our body and how it responds, but especially when you're going through perimenopause. There's levels, but there's books, there's, tons of different podcasts out there. And also, talking to your doctor or, a naturopath if you go that route. There are ways to help you where you're not suffering. But we also have to do the work.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do some of the work yourself.
I think that's beautiful. I know I've seen Halle Berry champion a lot of that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's important that it becomes more of a conversation, especially through all these gender war conversations. We don't understand each other.
Yeah.
That lack of conversation only enrages communication even more, right? And so you have daughters, you have mothers in your life, you have sisters, aunties, right? Or just women, period. I think that it's important that there to be a general public education about these things. And as wellness becomes a bigger topic, I think we're going to be getting more information and more awareness about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because there's almost no empathy. Right, women are a lot of silent sufferers. In some Native American communities, they say women go through what they call auricule perimenopause, meaning that when you stop bleeding for the world, you start speaking for the world. Some of your other gifts start enhancing, right, and they become more heightened. And I believe that, and they see it more as, instead of something you're suffering through, it's an initiation, right? You're evolving into another stage. It's a process. And I like the view of how Native American and indigenous tribes looked at it because they always looked at the human cycles, right, as these different cycles we go through. But these are not suffering. It's like, okay, this is your next stage.
It's transitioning.
And it puts meaning to the suffering. You know what I mean? So if you're just going through it, you're trying to figure out why me? Yeah. And it's like, no, you have arrived now. So last thing, I have to ask this, Target. A lot of people, there was a lot of backlash, right? I seen your video. I see how you communicated. I even put out a video of my own during that time. Target is now down in sales. The boycott is continuing to surge. And you had put out a message, support the people online, things of that nature, support these businesses, even if you're going to be boycotting. And a lot of people felt you were putting the money before the people, right? And I would love for you to clear the air and address, right, your ultimate message, right?
Yeah.
Being a businesswoman, somebody who has gotten opportunity from Target in that store, you have to deal with inventory, right? There's a lot of things that the average person would never have to deal with, so they don't think about, right? But I can understand coming from your position. I would just love to give you that time to speak to the people on that.
So, in January when it first happened, when the whole DEI rollback happened, my video I did is when everybody found out, including me. We all found out at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I won't privy to the information. I was very frustrated and upset, just like everybody else still to this day. But because I am in business and because I have been a partner for 5 years with Target and I've been in those rooms and I know how the numbers work, my first thought was, is this the plan, right? Because the president, if that's what we're going to call him, he signed the executive order, which made everybody start doing this, right? Because that's where their allegiance was. And my thought was, is this y'all's plan to get black businesses out of retail stores? And if that's the plan, a boycott is what they want. Like, that was my thought. And so my thought was, and my phone was going crazy with so many black-owned businesses that I have helped get into Target, content creators who have done campaigns. We were literally Black History Month was coming, right? And so many of them had their first opportunity to have a big partnership, to get to this level. A lot of small businesses had just finally got on the shelves because there was a whole Black History Month program that Target does every year. So a lot of those products and artists and content creators were going to have stuff out, commercials out. They were like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And I was like, "Honey, I don't know, right?" And so what I was trying to explain in that first video was, and I gave them, which I thought, but to your point, a lot of people don't understand business. I am a partner with the products in Target, right? I don't own those products. That's a licensing deal. I created those for Target. Now, my hair care brand, Donna's Recipe, I own that company. It sits on a shelf in Target. So I have business two ways with them. One is partnership, one is ownership. You ain't got to buy nothing, right? None of the stuff that I create. Like, you don't have to buy anything at all from Target. But my thought was, I'm okay. But all these other small businesses who just got in, like, I own multiple businesses that are not in Target, that are in many retail stores. They don't. They are going to suffer, right? So I'm down for the boycott, right? But I was telling people, if you're not, I get it. But if you go in, make sure you only buying intentionally their products and get out, right? Because what's going to happen, and what did happen, their numbers are going to drop, right? And numbers don't lie, and that's what they're going to look at. They're going to say, oh, this is not performing. We're going to have to remove you from the shelf. And then they'll replace it with brands that don't look like us, right? Different brands who are performing, because their people are not boycotting. So even when you look at the sales, the majority of those businesses are the ones that we were buying, right? Those are down. And I get it. It's necessary. But my other thought was, what would have been great, right? When we think about boycotting in like Montgomery, they organized for a long time before they started. This boycott happened like that. They all talked to each other back in the days. They got together and decided this is the strategy. This is what we want as the end game, right? I think what would have been more impactful and powerful if all of the Black-owned businesses in Target, the partners in Target, the content creators who work with Target, if we all had been notified that, okay, y'all, let's have a meeting. This is the plan. But to this day, still no one has ever reached out to me, and I have more business with Target than any other Black-owned business, right? But not one conversation. I talked to multiple, at least a good 16 other founders and CEOs of Black businesses have not been reached out to, right? So my thing is, if we're going to be successful, what is the strategy, right? Let us all have a conversation together. Also, the people who got knowledge in the space, who understand the space. But I also, my thought is, back in the day when you do the boycott, it was never to hurt our people. I want forward movement for our people. but I don't want to hurt our people. I have for 8 years done the work for small businesses. Specifically, 98% of them have been Black-owned businesses. Every week for 8 years, I have given them a platform. I have supported them. I have changed lives. I have done the work in community all over this country. Like you can show my work. Like you can go and look it up, right? And that would never change. I'm still gonna always speak for the people and encourage people to support them directly. And it's so crazy to me because people just decided that I was with Target, and I'm like, I'm not with them.
Right.
In this, I didn't roll back the DEI. Right. I don't agree with it, but I also don't agree with millions of dollars being taken out of Black communities. Right. Just because there's no strategy.
Right. I think you articulated that very eloquent. I think one of the issues that I would have is the fact that I think they probably went after Target because they have more business with Walmart. I know Walmart sponsors BET, NAACP, and it's like when people not shopping at Target, they go on Amazon, they go on to Walmart. So I think it's dangerous when you are doing things that sometimes are performative, even if they have good intention behind it. We should always communicate with each other, right? That makes every plan better, right? Because then it's actually involving the people that it affects the most instantly. Anybody can decide not to shop there, but our goal is economic empowerment. We want to see these businesses have the ability to grow, scale, right? Create jobs, right? And that ability to create jobs is the most important amongst our community because most businesses never get to that point where they can be in a big box store. And that opportunity can bankrupt somebody if they can't sell through, right? And so, again, there's the social media narrative warfare that plays out. And then there's the behind the scenes strategy to where you add the people in it. And if it's a people's movement, then all people should be involved. It shouldn't be this fight for who gets to be the hero of this moment. It should really be about creating a movement for the people to win, right? Whether that's figuring out, all right, where's the digital campaign to make sure we're not hurting these Black businesses? They're going to have to make more sacrifices than everybody. So understanding that conversation should be had with them and what's the best way to go about it. Should we give you all a little leeway and some time, right, to get your things in order? And then also let's not make it about just one space, right? And I think that we're going to go through this period because we're suffering so much of change that's going to happen, shifts that's going to happen, the acceleration of the downfall of democracy in America and this automation era is going to affect everybody in ways that most people cannot comprehend, right? And so if we're not utilizing our platforms to create parallel systems, then boycotting existing ones will always send us back into the same one, right? And so my whole thing is boycott, right? Because it's easy to stop spending money, but who are you starting spending the money with now? Who did you replace in lieu of that sacrifice? Did you save? Did you invest? Or did you just shift to somebody else who's doing the same thing? So I don't like feel-good wins. I want to actually win. I want to actually be empowered. And I want to see more owners. You understand me? My mother and my sister, they all look to you. They all appreciate you. They're inspired by you. So having a woman of your caliber who I don't see as an archetype generally in the media, right? You're somebody awarded, but that general feel-good woman that is speaking about veganism and that shows up in the world positive and that has a beautiful marriage and family and children, that's not always at the height of celebration of what's represented in culture. And unfortunately, sometimes the lowest of us represent the rest of us. And we need that to be the complete opposite. So as somebody who stands in the forefront of that cultural shift, I appreciate you. You understand me? And if I ever get at the head of any boycott or boycott, I'll give you a call first.
I appreciate that. I mean, we are better together, right?
100%.
If we all can strategize together and communicate with each other and keep forward movement and lifting each other up in the process, I think the world will be a better place.
Well, thank you, Tabitha Brown, for existing. Thank you for being here.
You.
Thank you for seeing us and showing us ourselves. Thank you for existing at the height of your higher self, right? I know it hasn't been easy and it can be easy. I think we often think of people with success as having easier lives. No, they're giving themselves more responsibility, right? And that responsibility comes with a burden of power, right? And discipline and consistency and showing up when you don't want to show up, whether you're going through perimenopause, right, or not, which I think is important to say because a lot of our women are working and they're working through more things than people can see. It's the invisible battles that we need to make visible.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate you. This being your high level conversation.
Thank you.
Keys, and this is high level conversation. Tap in with the God. It's 19 keys, the 19 keys. The execution of knowledge is power. Teach me how to be a God. From a boy to a man, and ultimately back into the natural state of being into a God.
Hugh lounge in Boston.
Late night, everybody was taking shots and enjoying themselves. This morning, we was actually taking shots of coffee, re-stimulating ourselves and having a connection. Not just networking, but it's real connection. Having a tribe, having a friend group.
My energy is like on high frequency here.
We want God to work for us, but we don't work for God.
Because I hear a lot of people say, I'm just supporting you. I'm like, no, support yourself.
When I talk about Supermind, it's making those conversations even higher level.
Definitely high level vibes, high level energy.
I thought it was so dope. I had to come out.
I love the coffee. It has lion's mane and other things that help with mental focus and clarity.
The coffee, the cordyceps, the lion's mane, we're trying to get you to activate the clarity in yourself because you're lost right now.
Self-love is a reflection of all love. So first I want to thank 19 Keys because he helped me fall more in love with myself.
The goal is just optimizing on whatever your skills and gift are at the highest level.
We all have a starting point, and everybody's starting point is going to be different.
When I'm doing all this work behind the scenes, I got to get on my Supermind coffee to keep me going.
I think it's such an awesome opportunity to come and really have an intimate conversation.
There's no way that I couldn't show up, show out.
Thanks to Rob Hugh Lounge in Boston, we was able to have a cup of coffee with the community. If you get some of that Supermind coffee, it's joy in a cup, joy in a cup, joy in a cup, joy in a cup.
The new tour is an experience. I think that beyond just talking to people is how can you activate them there. I think that we're burnt out from transformation that don't work. We want to know what can we experience in real time, and that's what I want to do with this. Now on this tour we got the music. You feel me? Now on this tour I want it to be interactive and super active. Right? So it really allows you to be interactive with your community and your community really be able to support you. Right? And so it's more important that people buy their tickets early as possible and get multiple tickets and things of that nature, because it's basically you supporting, right, the Renaissance, supporting what you want to see, supporting more of what you want to see. That's why we call it the Save Yourself Renaissance. We added that particular part on there because the revolution always puts us in a survival mode. Like we always got to disrupt and break down something, and there are many things to break down, but there's many things to reawaken. There's many things to push. Right? And for us, it's about pushing our higher spirituality, higher technological intellect, higher experiential rituals that we can utilize so it has a cognitive enhancing effect. You understand me? To where we're going to them spaces and we're being activated and that feeling stays with us.